Welcome to My Hero 360, a community that features the voices of our heroes who bring awareness and advocacy for health conditions.
Ashley, welcome to My Hero 360.
Hi. Hi, welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We're going to talk today about your journey with a rare chronic neuromuscular autoimmune condition called generalized myasthenia gravis, or GMG for short. So, you learned about the condition in one of your college classes, actually, before your symptoms began. And once you started experiencing these symptoms, it actually took a while for you to be diagnosed. And you even asked your doctor if it could be this condition, GMG. So, can you tell me about how you started feeling the effects of GMG?
Yeah, so kind of like I think if you ask a lot of people who have MG, if I go back in my mind, I'm like, okay, when did you start having symptoms? I really was having symptoms before I even was like, hey, something is a little off. Like it was subtle things. Like I remember, you said, I was in college when I was diagnosed. I remember driving home sometime from like a long day of classes, clinicals, and my vision was blurry. But I mean, traffic was always crazy, it's busy. So I was just like, maybe I'm just seeing double because I'm sleepy, or I didn't get enough sleep, or I had too many energy drinks. But yeah, my vision was like one of the first things I noticed, and also my talking. So I talk on the phone a lot with my mom, my sisters while I was at school. And at the end of the calls, I'm just choking on my spit. Like it was hard to talk. That was also another thing. And then I smile a lot, and it started to get hard to smile. And then I was like, wait, can't form a smile? Like, what's going on? So subtle things like that, I can just kind of go back and think. But those were kind of like my first symptoms.
And what was it that was like, all right, I have to go find
Mhm.
out what's happening, what's going on?
This is going to sound so, I mean, but very on brand for me. It was the food. So I was eating at a steakhouse with my mom, and I think it was around my birthday. And I was just eating the steak, and I was like, this is really tough. So I sent it back. And once it got back again, I ate it, and I was like, this is still really hard to chew. Like, what is going on? Why can't they get it? And then my mom ate a piece of the steak and was like, this is very easy to chew. Like, what's going on? So it was food. And then I started to notice from there, like, okay, when you're eating things like solid foods that should be pretty simple to eat, I'm having to do like a lot of effort to chew
Mhm.
my food,
Mhm.
swallowing. Like I said, I was kind of choking on my spit, sometimes just choking on water that I'm drinking from like a tumbler. So definitely it was related to like me eating and drinking. I was like,
Wow.
let's go to the doctor and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I mentioned, in my introduction, you struggled for a while to figure out what was going on. And that's a common theme that we hear from people who are
Mhm.
navigating rare conditions. So, what was that like going through that process to find a diagnosis? And how did you feel when you finally understood what was going on?
I would say it was just very nerve-wracking, like the whole experience, because you're in your body. You kind of know when things are not right, when things are kind of like off kilter. So I just could feel in my deepest of hearts like something's wrong, like something is not right. But like I went into the doctor and told them what I thought this was. I was kind of brushed off like, no, kind of like being like a hypochondriac or something. Like it could never be that. It's so rare. Like, how could that be something that you're diagnosed with? So it was just a very nerve-wracking experience. I was just riddled with anxiety, waiting for phone calls from the doctor to tell me like, hey, this is that, or no, it's not that. So yeah, the whole process is just like a lot on your mental.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so for people who haven't heard of this condition because it
Mhm.
is rare, um, how do you describe it? How does it impact you or other people on a day-to-day kind of basis?
Right. So usually I try to explain it as it's a neuromuscular autoimmune disease, and people are like, okay, what does that mean? So I always talk about phone service. So pretty much like the connection between like my brain sending like messages, signals to like the muscles, the nerves. Like that's not, the call is not going, I mean, it's going out, but no one's receiving it. Like when it gets to my nerves, like my muscles and stuff, it's not receiving that signal correctly because it's it's interrupted with this condition. So once I explain it like that and kind of put a visual of like a connection not being made,
Mhm.
and that resulting in ultimately like weakness in my muscles. And then I explained that voluntary muscles are pretty much everything that we talk, speak, chew, swallow, breathe, walk. Like you need your voluntary muscles for so many things. So when I explain it like that, people are understanding. So like you're having weakness in like your muscles when you are using them.
Mhm.
Like, yes. So talking, even doing like interviews, I'm like, you have to slow down so
Mhm.
you're not like overexerting yourself.
Mhm.
So yeah.
That's a really incredible way of putting it. It definitely makes you be able to understand right away, like
Mhm.
what that must be like. So you've talked about how MG is an invisible illness. Um, do you find that it's difficult for people to understand what you're going through because of that?
Yes, that's why I try to create content to kind of make it put it in layman's terms so people can like it's easy to digest so you can kind of understand how it is like put yourself in my shoes like this is how it is.
Mhm.
So I've just found that trying to explain it like in layman's terms like not using like big terminology and stuff because it goes over people's heads. Like I'm in healthcare but I try not to talk about it in that light because stuff gets lost in translation, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And to that end, you have
Mhm.
developed this personal brand,
Mhm.
Ashley's Anatomy. You have a big online presence, a social media presence where
Mhm.
you are using your voice to share your experience with MG and really educate people. So, what made you want to start doing this, sharing your story, being very vocal and public about it?
Yeah, so back in 2017, when I was diagnosed, of course, the first thing I did, I went on Google. It's
Mhm.
like, let me see somebody else who has this. Like, let me see what I'm getting myself in for. And when I did the Google search, I only saw like super medical articles, like the NIH
Mhm.
studies, like medical publications. I'm like, no, I'm looking for a real person who's like living with this. Like, how does that look?
Yeah.
And I didn't see anybody when I did find some like patients living with it, they didn't look like me, like they weren't Black women or in their 20 somethings navigating through college. So I wanted to create like that space. So if someone ever Googles myasthenia gravis, and you're a 20 something year old woman, whatever, you're like, how does this look? So you can see like, you know, there are people out here living with it and still navigating pretty normal lives. So it was just to fill that space and be a resource and raise awareness because there was just no information about myasthenia gravis out there, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you first started looking,
Mhm.
I know you said there was kind of an absence of that presence.
Mhm.
Were there any resources that you found to be
Mhm.
helpful?
Yeah, so actually, some like the staple organizations, like I believe Myasthenia Gravis Foundation
Okay.
organization, like they all of the like they have been around,
Mhm.
and they offered like a registry, I believe. So registries you kind of join to make it known, I guess that you have this condition, and kind of contributing to the research of it all. So
Mhm.
we're getting more information about MG. Other organizations, the National Organization for Rare Diseases, or NORD,
Mhm.
they had some pretty good information about like just overviewing the illness and offer resources for like financial assistance for medications because back then there was not many like FDA approved treatments. So they would offer resources to help you with that process as well.
Mhm.
So
That's
yeah.
important. And on the topic of treatment,
Mhm.
what has there been anything that's helped you, whether it's, an FDA approved treatment or even just lifestyle modifications and changes? What has made a difference or an impact in the way you are able to manage this condition?
So I think early on, I spoke with my care team and I told them like my goal was like, Okay, I know I'm diagnosed with this rare condition. I'm 22 years old. So let me let you know like how I see myself living in the next 5 years. So I wasn't thinking about just right then and there. We
Sure.
started thinking like, how does life for Ashley look in the future, 5 years plus out? And I said, I don't want to be on certain medications, which were like steroids long term,
Yeah.
because I was in healthcare and I saw what chronic like steroid use and other medications, immunosuppressant drugs,
Yeah.
would do to your system over time. Like it's a known thing,
Yeah.
but necessary to stabilize you, of
Sure.
course.
Hmm.
So I let them know how I wanted. I wanted to, make sure wanted to be on minimal medications. I wanted my symptoms to be managed. So I wanted to attack or get my symptoms under control early on. And that looked like me having a thymectomy, which is the open chest to remove your thymus.
Hmm.
So I did elect to go ahead and move forward with that process after a few months of I was diagnosed with MG officially maybe like April of 2017. And by December of 2017, I was having a thymectomy surgery
Wow.
because my symptoms were just so out of control, like emergency room visits, emergency plasmapheresis, like it was just so much. And my doctors was like, well, it looks like if we, studies are showing if you go ahead and have this procedure that patients are, having remission, better symptom management further out, maybe like 3 or 4 years after your procedure. But yeah, and I thought it was a risk worth taking. So
Mhm.
I always say that I think taking that approach early on has definitely contributed to like my quality of life now.
Yeah.
But this didn't happen like overnight. This is like years of really working with my care team to say, this is how I want my life to look. And so
That's really incredible that you had not just this is how I want to feel now, but you had that forethought of this is how I want to feel in 5 years. And I think because you were diagnosed at such a young age, right, it's like critical that you had those really important conversations with your doctor and your care team. So I think that's really good advice for, anyone who's dealing with a rare or chronic health condition to really take that approach.
yeah, absolutely.
I want to talk a little bit more about your social media and your content that you create specific to your
Mhm.
MG journey. So, what responses have you received from people either who are dealing with the exact condition or maybe other
Mhm.
people? What do they tell you?
So the responses have been like overwhelmingly positive. Like at first I was a little apprehensive, of course, anytime you're like putting yourself out there, being vulnerable, sharing your experiences, especially with something kind of like rare, like MG, you're like, what will be the reception? But I get people who send me DMs or comments and like, I live with this too. Like, yes, or thank you for just making the content, the space, and even the content that I make, like I try to make it like not so like doom and gloom, like, yeah, it's a condition, it's very serious, like, but there are like positives in it, living and navigating life with a chronic illness.
Yeah.
And I just try to like highlight like that, the
Hmm.
resilience of
Hmm.
it all. So it's not so, I don't want to say sad because, sometimes it is sad, but, not as so serious, not so, you come to my page, you see vibrant pink and we're
Hmm.
talking about talking about MG, but we're gonna make it cute. I
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a lot of really useful, practical posts. So I think you did one that was like I bought these items and they really helped me with completing X, Y, and Z daily task. So what would you say inspires your creative output for your page?
like honestly, sometimes I'm just like doing random things like out and about or in my house, and then I'm like, you should definitely tell somebody like this is what you had to do. Like one day I was talking to my friend and we were like, she has a different rare disease, stiff person syndrome. We were talking about, like the struggle of people with rare conditions who don't have rare conditions, maybe not understanding like the experience of having to like crawl up the stairs after a hard day. Like it's real, but I mean sometimes it happens because you have to, if you're weak
Sure.
and having to crawl up the stairs, but yeah, just like experiences like that that are kind of like unique
Hmm.
to, the experience of having like a chronic condition, dynamic disability, sometimes being able to do things, sometimes not being able to. So when those things happen in my real life, I'm like, write that down because you can definitely, definitely go online and tell your MG family and, just let the people like know, like, these are the things that I've had to do, and this is what helps me because I
Mhm.
want to share the information instead of, some people don't have to like experience it. You
Right.
can just, you know, put those out there for people to have them access to them.
Right. Yeah, that's important.
Mhm,
And you mentioned your friend with another rare condition.
mhm,
Um, while, these conditions are rare,
mhm.
there's so many rare conditions, right? So collectively, when you take that group of people who are living with rare conditions, it's actually a much larger, group of people. So what do you wish people would understand or you want to make apparent about living with a rare condition?
I would definitely say, I think like in the media, or if you're just, I guess, looking for, if you don't see it like face to face, like in person, a lot of people have a hard time coming to terms with like invisible illnesses, rare diseases, like and the impact like the person who is experiencing them actually have, like, because you can't see it. So I just always want people to understand with rare conditions, like, it's so unique. It's such a personalized experience for someone, but if they say that this is what is happening and they're sharing their experiences, just take it at face value.
Yeah.
It's definitely what they're living and having to live with day in and day out. And I never am discounting anybody's experience, you know? So I'm just always like, it's complex, it's unique, it's something you don't see every day.
Mhm.
But just I would say just respect it and just be open to listening when people are telling you about like how that their rare disease is, impacting their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And where can people connect with you, learn more about you, um, visit your site?
Oh yeah. So my website would be the easiest way to like if you want to see what's going on Ash's Anatomy, it's ashesanatomy.com. And then from there I make it pretty simple. You can like click the links to all my socials, but everything is underscore Ash's Anatomy, like the handle. I'm
Mhm.
trying to keep it pretty consistent on like the TikToks, the Instagram. Just like on more so on like my Instagram, I do more of the patient advocacy and education, and then on my TikTok, it's more like lock beauty reviews,
Mhm.
makeup palette reviews, that kind of things.
Ashley, we like to conclude our My Hero 360 interviews by asking everyone the same
Mhm.
question. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger Ashley?
Probably just stick with it.
Hmm.
Stick with it because there was a lot of times throughout my journey that I said, no, I think I'm just gonna just not, I'm not gonna move forward. I'm gonna drop out of respiratory therapy school because I was diagnosed with this rare condition. I'm going to just stop essentially pursuing the things that I wanted to do. But I would just tell my younger self, stick with it, keep going because it absolutely does get better. Yeah, you just have to stick with it. So
That's all.
definitely that.
I love that. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for sharing with My Hero 360. You are already making such an impact through your personal brand, and we're really looking forward to being able to put a spotlight on GMG for My Hero 360 listeners. So thank you again.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, this was awesome.